everyone, happy Sunday evening, happy Palm Sunday. This is Janet Wakeland with Remarkably Created, and in tonight's video we're going to get a little messy, and I'm going to showcase for you some variations on a technique that Shannon West showed us at our recent demonstrator only on stage event in Houston, Texas. So some of the basics for this technique is you need an assortment of inks. You're going to learn with this technique that you can use markers, blends, refills, ink pads. You can use blending brushes or daubers, all different ways to apply ink to acetate. You will need window sheets. Stampin' Up! Does sell window sheets as 12 by 12 sheets, which gives you a lot of flexibility in different ways that you can cut them down and use them. And then the other must-have for this technique is you're going to want rubbing alcohol. So let's get right to it, and let me move these off of the work surface. I'm going to show you first just a few samples so you can visualize where we're going with this technique. Oh, and then you're going to want some adhesives, but we'll talk about that as we get going. So let's first take a look at a few samples. So if you look at the really fun background, it kind of looks like somebody spilled their coffee. This card here is a really fun layout. The acetate is actually the standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then the card is cut down a little on the inside so that you're using the white just to make that acetate pop. And all of the elements are adhered to the top of the card just like you would in a traditional card front. These elements here, as well as some of the others that I'm going to show you, are from the new ephemera packs that will be available in the new catalog debuting May 1st. They're designed for our new quick and easy mix and match line, but I'm having a lot of fun with them, elevating them and taking them to the next level. So you've got a couple of those elements on here. Yay, it's going to be a good day. And in my world, it's always a good day with coffee. Here is another way of doing that fun background, and I'll talk to you about how I adhered that in just a moment. But it's just all greens. Who loves green? Okay, lots of beautiful greens. The Greeting Thinking of You is another one of those ephemera pieces. This was adhered the same way that one is, so we'll talk about that. You can see the different colors that are on the acetate underneath. Some more ephemera pieces. Smooth Sailing and Sunny Skies. Isn't that a great greeting there? So a lot of fun. And here is another variation or option for you. We simply dyed the acetate to create a really pretty fun window sheet. And by dyeing the acetate and making that window sheet, the back of these elements here look nice. You don't have to worry about covering them or anything like that. So that's where we're headed with this. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to bring in just some trash paper. You can work directly on the glass mat, but because we're going to be doing quite a few of these, I don't want to stop to have to clean the glass mat after each project. I want us just to be able to keep moving along. So let's just first start by looking at some of the different ways that you can do that kind of fun marble looking background. And then we'll look at some of the tips for actually then using the pieces in your card making. So first, Stampin' Blends. And one of the ways what I found was that when I was working on these projects, I found it easier to begin with the end in mind. So for example, on this one, I knew I was going to use these elements. So then I pulled blends that kind of pulled out some of those colors, the wild wheat, the pecan pie, the early espresso, okay? So I kind of knew I wanted to do greens. In this case, I wanted to work with these elements. So beginning with the end in mind is one of the best tips that I can give you. This case with the plain, I wanted a sky, so blues made sense. So kind of knowing where you want to end up works. The other tip is really, really light pastels don't show up as well on the acetate. You're not going to get that contrast. So working with the darker shades, so for example, if you're going to work with the blends, working with the dark version of it, not the light version. So in this case, I have dark Old Olive, dark Lagoon. And speaking of starting with the end in mind, here you can see that Lost Lagoon on this element and the leaves and just some lighter pieces here, and that's kind of my end in mind. So you're going to take that brush tip and you're just gonna swirl it across. And you're gonna take the next one and you're gonna swirl it across. How big or how much you do, whether you only do 2 or 3, again, that's gonna be up to you, kind of playing around a little bit. Another tip is I usually like to start with a piece of acetate that's slightly oversized. So for example, if I want my finish size to be 4 inches by 5 1/4, I'll start with one that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, just giving me some room then to do a little bit of trimming. So after you've added your color, you're gonna go ahead and take your alcohol, and it is 91% alcohol, rubbing alcohol, just that you can get at any of your pharmacies, your big box stores like Target, Walmart, any of those places, any place where there's like a pharmacy section, just grab that rubbing alcohol. And the highest that you can get, I believe, is 91%, and that's what you want. Stampin' Up! Does sell little small spritzing tools, but for techniques like this, I love this fine mister. You saw me showcase it under products that I love in the month of February. You can find these on Amazon. They are what they use to lightly mist your fancy flowers like your orchids and just gently mist houseplants and things. It's also a great mister for hair. I actually learned about this mister and was gifted this one from my hairdresser many, many years ago. But it's just a really, really soft mist. And so again, let's just go back and add a little bit. Now technically you could wait forever for this to dry, but you can speed it up a little bit and also use your heat tool to move the ink around. One of the nice things about Stampin' Up's heat tool is there's 2 settings. If you push it just halfway, you'll have a low setting, and then you have a high setting. High setting will actually dry this really, really quickly, so if you're in a hurry, high would work. Low setting, it's gonna take just a few seconds longer and give you a little bit more time to manipulate it. So you'll hear the heat tool for just a second. Oops, I wanna go. Can you hear it here? High. Low. And when it's all protected, you're not going to get hot or burnt. And you can kind of just let that ink dribble around. You can push it a little bit with the air that's coming out of the heat tool. But we're just going to go ahead and apply some heat to that and kind of get it moving around. And getting it moving around, it's kind of like polished stone if you're familiar with that technique. But we're just kind of working on the acetate because it's clear. Kind of gives you like a stained glass window look. And then once you like it, of course, you could always take your heat and then come in and just dry it a little faster. Let me just get this one really dry. We won't dry all of them and make you wait through that, but at least this one, because I do want to show you something else. So one of the things that I learned playing around with this idea is that you're not stuck with this as your finished look. Okay, so you can see the color coming through. Let me pull a piece of cardstock here so you can see the colors. And now I'm gonna go in and I'll be able to add my different embellishments and have a really pretty card. But again, maybe you want it to be a little darker. Maybe you want a little bit more of that marbling look. Because it's now dry, I can come back in again and I can just literally start the process over. Maybe I wanted some up top now this time. So you get a second bite at the apple, even a third and fourth if you want. And you can come back in and add some more to it. I have found though it is almost possible to add too much alcohol where it's just way too soupy and literally all of your colors run together or they're running off of the side or the end of it. So let's just quickly move some of this around, and we're going to do it on high heat here for just a second. And I'm holding it at an angle. If I hold it straight down, it'll balloon more out in all directions, but I was kind of driving it with the point and the directionality of that. So just a little more water still running around. You can actually drive it off the edge if you prefer. But you can see how we went back in and added a lot more color and got a lot more of that marbling and fun look to it. So let's bring in another piece of acetate. And another way to do this is with just drops of reinker. I like to give you more than one way of doing things whenever possible, just giving you that chance to be a little creative with what you already own. We need to do a whole series on just fun projects with refills because they are so versatile. There's so much cool stuff that you can do with them. So I'm just adding some drops on here, probably a little too many drops for the size piece of paper that I have. But, and again, you can always start with just a few and go back in and add more. So in this case, I started with pecan pie, coastal cabana. I added some crushed curry and then some flirty flamingo, thinking of like a beachy sunset or something like that. We're gonna add our spritzer, and we can hold these for a second and get the colors to start to run a little bit. And now I'll use my heat tool to kind of drive those colors around, pulling them in together. Get the water down to the sand, and maybe I didn't do enough reinkers. So yeah, we'll need to add a little bit more reinkers to this. So let's just do that real quick. Add a little bit more so we can spritz it a little bit more. Just get a few more in there. Get our... I could actually come back in. I might need some Daffodil Delight to definitely make it look more like a sunset. And I can see where we'll add some more alcohol to it so it's really wet and moving around. Oh, this kind of looks a lot like sand here, so that's kind of fun. So we'll just put a little bit more on there and spritz it really good. Okay, now let's really move this around. So now you can see that we're starting to get some of that really good color. And the thing about this is no two are ever going to be alike. So if you're trying to duplicate somebody's exactly the way it was done, I promise you it will be near impossible to do. But you can come dang close with at least knowing what colors they used. But it's going to be very challenging to be exact with this. And I don't know why I've got like a funky spot up here. The other thing that you can do is you can use a brush to brush some of that around as well too and kind of make it, or you can even use your blending brush to kind of move some of that ink in the way that you want it to be. So you can come in with a brush or a blending tool and also mix some of those up. So, and then you would just go ahead and let it dry. I'll flip it over so you can kind of start to get a look at the colors and the way that it's going to look on there. So you can use your reinkers with your acetate. Your best look is always going to be with your, and I'm going to put that off to the side so we can use it and finish that up for a card, is going to be with your Stampin' blends. Another way to work with this is to take your ink pads, and you can either go direct to your project, or you can take a brush and you can pounce it on, you can rub it on, so you can use your blending brush. And then again, you would do the same steps of adding, you know, spritzing it with your rubbing alcohol and then starting to dry it and move it around. So, or you can simply just color on with daubers as well too. So you're gonna have some different options, but the best look is absolutely with blends. But for those of you that don't own blends, I wanted to give you a couple of options for working with them. So just as a reminder though, darker colors will give you the most contrast and will really pop on that acetate and against whatever background cardstock. 91% alcohol. So let's take a look though at a few other ideas and options, and then about how to adhere this adhesive. So you can texturize that acetate first. So in this case, I added some of those rings. I was kind of trying to play around with the concept of like pink, you know, like a rainbow color, but I lost a lot of the color. So I need to just kind of keep playing around with the concept and the idea. And then on this one here, if you look real close, you can see the new swirl embossing folder. So that has the little swirl embossing folder. So you can texturize your acetate first and then go ahead and add the colors to the back of it, use that rubbing alcohol, and create that fun marbled look by doing that. So then as far as adhering your elements, so let's talk a little bit about different ways that you have of adhering your elements. And let's use the one that we just created first, and then we'll come back in with the one that I have here, because I have it created for a specific purpose of this that we're doing right now. So Stampin' Up! Sells adhesive in 6x12 strips, and it is adhesive sheets. So basically this whole thing is sticky, okay? And this is our new adhesive sheets. They're 6x12. Some of you, if you've been around for a while, you may have our older what's called transfer adhesive sheets. The difference between using these and these, let me see if I can bring this in and show you on this one. So if I hold this up and so can you see all those dots? The transfer adhesive sheets, the older adhesive that Stampin' Up! Used to have in a shorter size, you can see the difference in size here. They have dots. Now it's kind of a cool look, but that may not be what you're going for. These transfer sheets are adhesive sheets here that are 6x12. There are no dots. So can you see that difference? Just for some of you that have some of our older product around. So, and I thought, oh, I'll just use up my transfer sheets, forgetting that they had dots. So there's a time and a place for them, but sometimes you want that nice clean look. So the transfer adhesive sheets actually have 3 strips, and one side is sticky. So I lay it down so that the sticky side faces up to me, and I just start to pull that transfer sheet back. And I'm gonna now take, where did it go? I just had it in my hand. This is where I start to get a little crazy, guys. Underneath of it, that's where it's at. And I'm gonna take, and I'm gonna put the back side down, not the side that I applied the ink. I'm gonna put that down. And then I'm just going to give this a really good rub and get that adhesive really, really stuck to it. I can take my scissors at this point and I can cut off the extra adhesive. And before you peel any of this backing off, this would be the time to trim this down to the size that you want it to be. And now all you're going to do is pull these pieces off, and this whole square is sticky, and you're going to be able to stick it down to a card. I'm going to give you a little bonus tip here. Let's take this piece. Oh, I've got ink all over all of these. This one will work anyway. So I'm going to put this down. So if for some reason you cut your paper and there's this sticking off, of course you really don't want to run your scissors through that and get it all stuck. Take your embossing buddy, or take like a little cheesecloth that you put some cornstarch in, and you can pounce that on the sticky, and now that sticky is no longer sticky, and it won't add all that gumminess to your scissors or to your paper trimmer. So the embossing buddy is not just for embossing, but again, using that adhesive sheets can be a great way to adhere something down. Then another way of adhering something down is by simply hiding the adhesive. So in this case, I'm just going to take a bunch of glue dots, and I can either take a bunch of glue dots, or because this is a larger piece here, I can also take my snail, and my snail will stick to the acetate, and I can hide that adhesive behind the image that's on there. And then depending on the color of your paper, you can also then just take, where's my spatty tools, what I'm looking for, my little, well, we'll just use the scissors tip. But you can then just take a little glue dot and just discreetly hide it down in the corner, and then that will hold it all down for you. So you can just discreetly do that. or any place where there's darker. You don't actually have to come up in the corners unless you find that the corners are kind of really popping up on you. So you can discreetly hide your adhesive, your glue dots, I find work best. And then if you have a large image like this, you can easily put your seal behind it or sticky strips or something like that to help hide it. And then one other fun card, one other fun way that these cards were made, and let's just get rid of this for now. So this is how this fun card here was made. So that you've got a whole different look. It's all that acetate on the top and on the back. And I'll show you how I did it. I'm sure that there's lots of other variations out there, but I'll show you how I did that particular card. So I'm going to start with a window sheet that is 4 1/4 by 11 inches. And that means I'm going to score it at 5 1/2. So we're going to add that score. And the acetate's a little thicker, so I press a little harder with my scoring blade and I run it back and forth a few times just to get that nice deep crease in there. And then you're going to fold it over, bring it together and hold it down because it is acetate and it will want to slide around on you. And you're going to really work that crease and just kind of press on it a few times and get that crease in there nice and good. And you can see how it's laying nice and flat. The insert card that I've inserted inside of it is 3 1/4 by 10 inches. Okay, so that's the size that I chose to use. And it all will depend on how much of a border you want or don't want. You would also score this. So just pretend like that's what I just did. And we're gonna crease it like so. And you would ink up this side. And when I'm working on that, I just laid something heavy on it and held my fingers on it, inked it all up, did everything I was gonna do to it, got it all dry. You could also work on it before you scored and folded it, or at least with the score mark in it so you know what side and how far to go, okay? And then the card is not quite all the way up to the crease. I wanted just a little bit of a border around it. And I put all of my elements on the front of the card. So I put all the elements on first, hid all my adhesive behind the elements, and that's what stuck it to the white cardstock. On the back, I put a strip of cardstock that's 1/2 inch wide. And I put a little adhesive on here, and then I could also adhere right behind that strip. So that strip is what's hiding the adhesive that's holding the card to the back of this. So lots of fun ideas, guys. It's a great way to use your blends. Blends are the best for this technique, but again, if you don't have blends, then you might want to try your reinkers, ink pads, and things like that. And you'll get some different effects, and you can see that you can go like here in this case, I kind of swirled the ink. I did like little swirlies with it. In this case, I rubbed it back and forth. In this case, I kind of did some like line swishes with it. Here, I didn't go all the way to the top, trying to just get that spilled fun coffee look. This one again, I kind of did colors, like blobs of color in different places. So you're gonna have a lot of fun with this technique, guys. If you have any questions at all about the techniques that I showed you, just ask them below. I'll look for your questions. And then I will see you guys on Tuesday at 8 p.m. I have some really fun last minute Easter ideas that you can do with 6x6 designer paper and or cardstock so that you'll be ready for those last minute little treats and things like that with just something that you have around your crafting studio. So have an amazing night and make it a remarkable week, guys. Take care.